Welcome to NAIFA's Advisor Today podcast series, where we focus on how financial advisors work, live, and give to their local communities and our greater financial services industry. Now, let's get started with the show.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Advisor Today podcast, NAIFA's very own, where we relaunched it. And now we have another one of our surprise co-hosts who's going to join us, Kathleen Owens. Kathleen, how are you?
Hello, Chris. I am great. It's great to be here. I'm excited.
It is great to see you with that NAIFA button on. I didn't bring mine.
Yeah.
That's
okay. We kind of coordinated though in our jackets.
You are sporting the cause today. So with that being said, Kathleen, we're super excited to have you. And those who don't know, we relaunched the podcast at the beginning of the year. And now we've got a new emphasis on new and original thought content. So stay tuned. We look forward to bringing it to you. And Kathleen is our wonderful guest host for this podcast. So with that being said, Zach Hewells, what do we look like for sponsorship for today's podcast?
Today's sponsor is Midland National. Are you an independent financial professional looking for a strong, reliable partner? Go with Midland National. With over 115 years of financial strength, top ratings from major agencies, and a commitment to innovation, we provide the tools you need to succeed. Enjoy direct access to office support, cutting-edge technology, and specialized advanced markets training, all designed to simplify business and drive results. Plus, with regional sales partners spread across the country, you'll always have the local support you need when you need it. When it comes to products, the competitive portfolio of top-ranked indexed and universal life insurance options designed from everything from wealth accumulation to guarantees and flexibility, along with a robust term product, offers a variety of financial solutions to meet a wide range of client needs. Backed by an employee-owned mindset, they're invested in your success. Join Midland National and experience the power of partnership. Visit midlandnational.com or click the link in the podcast description to get started. Back to you.
Thank you so much, Zach. As I mentioned, we are so pleased to have one of our guest co-hosts, Kathleen. Kathleen, if you could please do us the honors in introducing our guest for today's podcast.
I would be happy to do that, Chris. So today on the podcast, we have Bobby Johnson, who is the Chief Distribution Officer from Midland National Life Insurance Company. And with him, also from Midland, is Joel Tabin, who is Regional Sales Director from Midland. So we're really excited, guys, to have you on the podcast and to have a conversation about something that we probably all think is very important, and that's life insurance and protecting our loved ones and family members. So thanks to both of you for joining us.
Let's jump into this life insurance conversation, shall we? So why share with us a little bit about both of you, your backgrounds, how long you've been in the industry, and why life insurance in times like we're in now. I mean, we are on the precipice of one of the largest market swings ever, right? Why is life insurance so important as we start to look at uncertainty?
I'm gonna say this, and we may cover it a little bit later, but one of the beautiful things about Midland National Life is our distribution team. And Joel is obviously regional sales director. So I'm going to let Joel start the first answer.
Sure. No, thank you, Bob. This is, this is a time when life insurance really can't be more important. Nobody knows when they're gonna pass away, right? Nobody knows, when they might have a situation where they need living benefits. Nobody knows, life is unpredictable, and your life doesn't always match up with what's going to happen in the broader markets. If you're someone who, for example, owns a business or has a lot of equity holding, and you're coming to a point in your life where either it's the end of your life or something happens unexpectedly, the value of life insurance at a time like this is paramount. And I think about that all the time. We talk about life insurance as a way to be a buffer for an estate. We talk about it as a cushion for beneficiaries. And it all sounds very theoretical until we come to a point in time like this. And then we're reminded again about the value of life insurance. So I just over the weekend, even waking up this morning, thinking about the value of what we do every day was really more top of mind now than it's been in some time. It's just the value of life insurance as protection for families and for businesses is never more present than today.
I would echo what Joel says in different markets, right? But I would say that the thing about life insurance is no matter what the market conditions are, no matter what time is, life insurance has a concept to fit that particular time frame. It just depends on where we're at, right? But I will say, if you would ask when is the right time for life insurance, what market, what segment, it's any time. One of the things that we truly struggle with as an industry is we don't have enough people insured. I mean, if you look at LIMRA stats, I think it's 51% is either underinsured or not insured at all. And when I think of just this past week in the town where I'm from, there's GoFundMe pages set up for funeral costs. And, I would say as I wake up every day and try to figure out solutions for life insurance and those individuals that need the coverage, how do we get rid of that? That's terribly sad to me to see that somebody has to go do a GoFundMe for a funeral cost, right? And so from that standpoint, whether it's business owner markets, from a cash value standpoint, or if it's all the way down to the simple 10-year term, just to put affordable coverage on a family, that if that breadwinner doesn't make it home that night, you don't add tragedy upon tragedy. It's one thing to lose a loved one or to lose a breadwinner, but then you throw in the financial crisis that can happen if you don't have life insurance is really something that as an industry we need to solve. So from that perspective, it's always the right time to look at life insurance, whether it's new life insurance, it's a review to see if you need more. It's always the right time, in my opinion.
Bobby or Joel, how would you say if someone is struggling maybe to integrate more life insurance into their practice? I mean, I will admit I came from a life insurance broker dealer. It was New England Securities when they were around, so I'm dating myself a bit there. So protection really was first and foremost in my conversations with clients. Now, quite frankly, I'm more on the asset side, but still very big on protection. But if someone maybe is more on the asset side or they're younger in the industry, how would you suggest they really bring up this conversation rather than saying, do you want your family to be running the GoFundMe page? You don't want to go doomsday like that. But how would you suggest they start that conversation if they're not comfortable?
I think first of all, it's education, right? So from an advisor standpoint, more and more people are coming into the business from an advisor, assets under management, managing money standpoint. That's the exciting part to them. Life insurance is a concern because when you look at an advisor, the concern they have is, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to go through a process, right? There is underwriting and it can take 4 to 6 weeks, sometimes longer, depending on the health. And I think it's really about educating that advisor on if you're gonna do what I would call, fully funded planning, holistic financial planning, life insurance has to be the basis of that conversation. And no matter what you are doing in the market and your returns are good, bad, and different, whatever that means, you can have the best laid plans in the world for somebody who's 30 years old with a new, child and a new family. But if you're not there, those plans never get fulfilled. And I think that's probably the best thing about life insurance is it is it closes that gap. It gets you to where you want to be, and it takes care of your family in the case that you're not there. So I think it's education. I think, again, Joel is in the field every day, and that's what he's trying to do with his advisors is walk them through the process and how, as an industry, we need to make it easier for them. And there's a lot of talk about processes right now about making life insurance easier for the consumer to do business.
It's a great question, Kathleen. And one of the things, we talk to a lot of financial advisors, a lot of folks, even like yourself, who maybe started out at a life insurance oriented in a life insurance oriented environment, and now they find themselves primarily, in the asset side of the world. And one of the things we really emphasize is the value of a life insurance review, making sure that you just review whatever life insurance your clients have, and from clients who have frankly, not a lot of assets up to extremely sophisticated clients, we often find that the life insurance they have is out of date in some way. Perhaps it doesn't have death benefit guarantees. It doesn't have living benefits. The policy is underfunded. Just those are three big examples. Folks don't buy life insurance and kind of hold the policy and review it every day. Life insurance is something they buy often. They stick on the in a shelf someplace or in a filing cabinet, and they don't look at it for a really, really long time. It's something maybe they'd rather not think about. Life insurance needs to be reviewed. It needs to be constantly kept up to date. And we explain to advisors, and they find this all the time, that when you do a review, not only are you creating more opportunities for life insurance, potential life insurance sales, updating life insurance policies, but you're doing amazing things for your clients, because there are things clients don't even realize they don't have about their life insurance, and their advisors for that matter, because they haven't reviewed it in some time. And life insurance has changed so much in just the last 5 or 10 years that a review is always in order. And so that's a great way for an advisor who maybe hasn't worked with life insurance in a while to step into it, offer your client a life insurance review, and great things will happen.
Kathleen, let me add one thing that Joel's talking about. It's, there's stages, right? There's the young, there's the, you get, whether it's tax planning, you get to I call it 3 different stages of life insurance. But one thing, I've worked with Joel for 20 plus years now, once as a peer for 15 years. And I'll never forget Joel's presentation about 15, 20 years ago when he said, hey, there's the theory of never ending responsibility. And it stuck with me way back when, because there's always responsibilities that people are going to have that life insurance can solve for. And so it's something that he does very well.
So, gents, let me ask this question. Let's stay on the life insurance topic. The word on the streets is AI is taking out the role of the advisor, right? That's the word on the streets. Now, I'm going to throw it back to you guys and tell me your thoughts around just the topic. I have my personal thoughts, but I'll give it to you guys as a thought leaders. And then Kathleen, will ask you your perspective, since you are in the field, as am I. So let's go to Joel first. How's that?
Yeah, I mean, what I would say is, it's at points in history like this where I truly wonder how prevalent AI will be. I mean, I was at a meeting with a bunch of advisors on Friday, maybe 10 or 12 advisors, and I think every single advisor at the meeting said their phone was ringing steadily throughout the day from clients who wanted to talk to them about what was happening in the market. I'm not sure how somebody consults their AI bot, when the market's down, 1,000 points and people are wondering what's going to happen next. So there's an enormous emotional value, first and foremost, to having a human relationship. Does that mean there will be folks, millennials or Zoomers going forward who may, like that kind of AI technology and use it? Yes. But when it comes to finances, when it comes to issues that really touch on the core values that individuals have, emotional issues, issues that many people who are frankly financially successful, but they don't want to think about too much. They want someone to talk to about. I think there will always be a role for an advisor in a field like this. Will AI have a place? Certainly, it has a place in the life insurance world right now with underwriting, for example, and risk management. But the ability to sit down with human being, either over the phone or in person, over Zoom, and share your emotions and share your thoughts and your feelings and work through issues, I think that will always be a feature of our industry.
Thanks, Joe. Bobby, any thoughts around the topic?
Absolutely. I think Joel hits on the number one key, and that's the human touch. If I look, I go back to my days when the robo advisor was going to take over financial planning, and it didn't, right? If you look at Limerostat on, direct to consumer business, it stayed flat at about 6% of the industry for the past, 6-7 years. I think AI is going to help the advisor in a lot of ways. When I think of financial needs analysis, when I think of, analyzing in a quicker manner, I think it's going to have its place, right? AI is here to stay. But, when you're sitting down with a business owner and you're working through his particular dynamics of his business and what he's trying to do, they just want that trusting. They want to be able to sit across and look face to face with somebody to say, hey, we got you on this. And so I think AI is going to be there to assist, but I think the human element will always be a part of life insurance planning. And where it matters most, I think, is on the back end when you really have to dig in and when a claim is filed. How does that AI walk a client through that? I don't believe it can. I think that's the advisor piece that's missing from that.
So I guess I could just say ditto. I mean, I agree with both Joel and Bobby on their assessment. I mean, this is my 18th year in the business. So I've been started right before the Great Recession. It was like the best training time ever because I didn't have that many clients, to be quite frank. I was building the business, trying to figure it out. And I saw the Great Recession and thought, what is happening? I saw that extreme roller coaster of emotions. And I've been through several since then, of course. And to kind of tie that string across all the statements, AI is not going to replace us. I mean, I think, Joel, you said it. Your client's not going to call a bot or they can try and chat with a bot, but I don't know what the bot's going to say. And Bobby, you mentioned this as well. People want to know you're there and you care. And the claims process is probably one of the worst times of their lives. And they want someone there, walking through with them and being that level head. Because I've been through enough claims with clients now, they're not always thinking straight and they don't know what to do. So they're looking for a human being to be there for them, connect with them. I mean, I've sadly been to clients' funerals and been at those. I've been to a client's child's funeral. I mean, those are the worst things we can imagine in our life. And the last thing you want is a bot. So I think the people who may gravitate towards that, those consumers who may gravitate towards that, at some point it might hit them. They don't really want it. They want the ease and the convenience at the moment. And maybe when you're younger, that's fine. But as life starts to happen, it gets more complicated and you need someone there. And that's what I see myself as, is kind of weeding through. I actually think the AI and all the technology makes it even worse. So that makes our opportunity even bigger to help people. It's not making it easier. Everyone thinks technology, well, not everyone. Most people think technology is making it easier. I think it's making it more complicated. So that's where our need is even greater. It's my thought. So bring on the AI and the bots because they're not taking us down.
I'll just say this and we'll move to the next topic, is we can't make short-term decisions for long-term gain. I think short-term people will gravitate towards the shiniest object. And so that's the way technology is going. But long-term, when it comes down to it, what they're really looking for is they're looking for a long-term sustainable relationship that they can build as human beings. We'll just go to the very basic element of it. As human beings, we desire to be around other human beings. That's the nature of being human. And part of AI is being not having the human elements. It actually works. What it tries to do, it actually works against itself because it physically can't feel. Like when you're with a family, you feel that swell of emotion that comes over you because you think about your mortality and your family, and you connect in a way that the computer just can't. Even if they gave it all the emotions and was a robot, you just can't connect. When you hug someone for, they say 2 minutes, which is a long time to do it, right? You hug someone for 2 minutes, you exchange emotion, and that is part of the human element. And I believe life insurance is a human element. It is a part of who we are. And at the end of the day, we care about what's being done for our family, which is the reason why you need someone who you say, hey, call this person, not call the 1-800 number. Can you imagine what that's like? So with that being said, it's a topic we've asked, in a kind of our new angle of kind of what's going on is technology and what's happening with that. But let's talk about Midland, and let's talk a little bit about, for those who may not be familiar, right? Because we do have our NAIFA constituents are watching and looking, and new people that are coming into the business. Tell us a little bit about Midland and kind of where they fit in the space of insurance.
You want me to jump on that one right quick for you, and then I'll let you pick from a regional perspective. I would say, Chris, that we want to be the home of the independent life insurance agent. It's that simple. We pride ourselves on relationships, and we talk a lot about that. We talk about Midland National as having the direct access to our company. One of the hardest things, you talk about human element in underwriting for advisors, is going out and having a client that's rated for a health issue or a decline or something that goes on. And, Midland provides the opportunity for that agent to call our home office and talk to an underwriter, help them through that process of why do we have to rate table 4 instead of a standard and all of this. So when you think about that, we have that opportunity for the agent to do that. The other thing is we like to celebrate together. We're coming up on our convention season in a couple of weeks where we take our top advisors to convention. And man, you have people wanting to get to our convention because of the lifelong friendships they've created over that time, not only with our home office, but with our regionals. And so, it really is. We want to be the home. My job every day waking up is to build a better home, whether that's through processes and working through our teams, whether that's with our product innovation. But at the end of the day, we want that advisor to look Midland National first. And that goes back from a years long history. I want to say 40 plus years of our distribution system, which includes our regionals. And as you said earlier, we have regionals throughout the country. We have 24. We're designed that way so an agent doesn't have to look very far to find a regional in their backyard to work with. And then from a regional perspective, what our regionals do best is typically most of them are securities licensed, so they understand the planning process. And our regionals can go in and literally sit down directly with that advisor to find cases, to find opportunities in their book of business. And that's where Joel and the rest of our team does very, very well.
That's great. That's exactly right. And Bobby was a regional and that's one of the wonderful things about Midland. There's a long history of what we were talking about before, which is the personal touch. Midland has local representation with, great, if I could say, regional sales directors and staffs that they have that can help the advisor, a very hands-on home office as well, a direct access relationship with the home office. And of course, wonderful competitive products, especially in the indexed UL space, as well as term. We work with all kinds of advisors, both more insurance-oriented folks, as well as financial advisors. Lots of training, both at the company level and at the regional level. It's truly an environment where an advisor, a broker, an agent can be in business for themselves, but not be left alone. And wonderful relationships that form as well in and amongst the advisors who are with the Midland family, all independent professionals, but who have a wonderful synergy amongst themselves, a synergy that's reinforced at the regional level, but also at the national level at Midland events, like what Bobby was describing, the convention, where there's a lot of idea sharing and just, people picking each other's brains about best practices in the field. So really a wonderful package. Both Bobby and I started at Midland as young advisors and kind of came into this regional role, and Bobby, of course, corporate leadership role, because we loved, the value proposition and felt so strongly about it as we worked through it as advisors and carried that enthusiasm over into our roles as wholesalers and recruiters and corporate leaders. So just a lot there for the independent advisor.
So with that being said, gents, let me ask this. I see that I've been around for 25 years now. Well, it said me. I'm recovering. But I see the changes that are happening in the career systems around the world, around the country. If you had a crystal ball, even though I know you don't, where is the industry going? And I think I'll start with Kathleen, because I think her and I kind of came out of the same space, right? Where it was one size fits all. We were all fit to the same culture, and everybody sells, life insurance and risk management products. And if you don't, you can't go on your license. And there's a whole bunch of other things, right? But we kind of came out of that, I think, very similar spaces, and our practices have evolved over time. But if you look back at some of those places aren't the places where new advisors are going. Some are, but lots of them are looking at different options now, like even the independent channel or the RIA channel, whatever it may be. So even though you can't predict the future, let's talk about the future of the industry, where you see it going from your perspective. And I'll start with Kathleen, since she is an advisor, kind of her perspective, and then we'll kind of just go around the horn.
I agree with you, Chris. We did come from a similar structure, machine, if you will, where it was that in maybe an insurance-based broker dealer and you had securities, you were really looking at the comprehensive piece. I think where it is changing, there's less of that. We can probably all agree upon that system is not really there as much as it was. What I am seeing is more of the independent space growing. And then as someone who's with an independent broker dealer, I do look at myself and my practice, say, okay, some of that onus of that next generation is on me. I mean, it's kind of taking that onus upon myself to say, look, those big machines aren't maybe bringing in the advisors that we need, frankly. I mean, we see the numbers with baby boomers, transition of wealth. The numbers are big. And frankly, for those of us in the business, I think they're exciting and scary at the same time to think, oh my gosh, this could be a tsunami that we have to take on. So what I'm starting to think of, I joke with my office, they used to call me the young gun. I'm like, okay, guys, I'm not the young gun anymore. I think I'm the middle-aged gun. I'm past that phase of my career and thinking about that next generation and that next young gun to bring in, because we need to do that. Because if those big companies are not there to do it per se, who's going to do it? You know, these kids coming out of college aren't going to be excited to go to a wirehouse per se. They may be, but I think that's changed as well. So it's a shift in our mindset about how we grow our businesses and look at that next generation. And there's just more leadership opportunity, I think, for all of us that are in it, in that maybe that mid phase.
You know, it's interesting, and I completely agree with you, Kathleen. It's this could be an hour-long podcast in itself. You know, from an industry perspective, Chris, we're in a unique time, and Midland is in the PPGA space, and then you have your brokerage space, right? And in the brokerage space, you're seeing a lot of aggregation. There are some large aggregators that are just, you know, I'd say gobbling up, for lack of better words, smaller agencies and some bigger agencies for that matter. I don't know where that's going to go. At some point in time, I think there's, can you get too big? You know, we talk about that a lot, where if you get a smaller agency, they don't want to be a number. I go back to relationships again, to where you have that. And I think there's an opportunity for our space, that independent space that's looking for that home. It doesn't mean the other side's bad, or our side's good. I mean, we need them both, right? I would say in that MGA space, the brokerage space, you have scale. So you have the opportunity to solve that problem I talked about earlier, more people, right? To cover more people. But I think too, that's also going on in the securities business. So when you look at Joel recruiting advisors from broker dealers, we just had another large broker dealer buy another big broker dealer that was announced last week. And you're seeing the aggregation of these broker dealers. And I think it lends itself to our opportunity to be able to, as they're going through that, we can be the beacon of saying, hey, help life insurance be simpler for me, and be a process. I think the two other things that we're going to struggle with as an industry right now, and number one is training. I would say there's some mutual companies out there that do training very, very well in the independent space. I would say we don't have the time or the resources to train somebody right out of college. That's just the nature of our business. So how do we train people? How do we get people from that college looking at life insurance? And I do like the holistic financial planning side. So I think people coming out of that, could we put programs together? It's interesting. My son, who is 23 years old, calls me 2 weeks ago and said he had an interview with a large mutual fund company. And I was like, what? Where'd this come from? In 30 years, in his 23 years, he's never asked dad about what he does. But it's out there. So the message is getting to that younger generation. But I think another area that we're missing out on is the different demographic areas. It's you've all heard it, pale, male, and stale. Our life insurance sales guys, they're aging out, and we need to bring that the new demographics, the new age groups into our industry. Or to your point, that tsunami is going to hit and we can't take care of the individuals that need to be taken care of.
Great perspective.
I would just echo everything, Bobby and Kathleen said. I think a lot of what we see happening right now and what's going to continue to happen over the next generation are firms recruiting younger people directly out of college or out of school. I'm talking about independent firms. That's where a lot of training is taking place. A lot of where the recruiting into our industry, where our new industry leaders is taking place, and that really only highlights the value of company partners like Midland National to help these firms not only train themselves, but also train their new people on the value of life insurance, how to incorporate life insurance into a full financial program. All of this is so important in today's world because it really has become a much more decentralized industry. You do not have these large, big, career companies recruiting, dozens of, very few anyway, dozens of college folks, for a class every single year. It's very much individual, independent firms recruiting a few people at a time to grow their business. And that's a wonderful way for the business to grow, and it will continue to grow. It just shifts the emphasis onto different facets of the industry to do training, to do support. And I think a company like Midland National, especially our model, our regional model, and our direct model is very well suited for really what's been happening. And I think what will be, the future of our industry over the next generation.
Yeah, I think the industry is, in 25 years, quarter of a century, a long time, but, the industry is changing. That's clear. And either you're ahead of it or you're behind it, right? And that's, I think, embracing that. You mentioned training and development. I came out of one where they tout themselves as the go-to for training and development. The challenge with that is once you learn how to sell this stuff, you figure out that, hey, that's not the most profitable business model there. So you start to say, wait a minute, time out. How does this work? Right. It's really interesting. I heard a joke the other day. I'll see if I can remember it correctly. I heard a joke the other day is that a general agent and a new agent is driving in a car. Maybe you guys have heard this. And the general agent says, he looks over and he says, I'd like to buy that house one day. He's like, that's interesting because I own the subdivision. That GA says, well, that's interesting because I own the subdivision. So you're like, what?
Different mindset.
Right? Like, okay. So that was interesting. I thought it was a pretty funny joke, actually, but to some of our partners, they may not think it's as funny. So we may have to.
Chris, in that joke, the part that's interesting is there is such opportunity for this industry. And, I've been very blessed to raise a family and do the things I've done, build the relationships in an amazing industry, and the lifestyle that you're able to create with life insurance and financial services, while at the same time taking care of people. And there's not a lot of industries that I've recognized that you can do both. Mm-hmm. And so I think if we can solve that problem of getting more individuals into our space, the more people can own subdivisions and build generational wealth and build a practice that literally takes care of people when they need it most.
Well, I'll close that kind of conversation with just simply saying the realization is there's other ways to do it now that we didn't have before, right? There's so many ways to engage in it that makes sense. There's multiple ways to get into the game now. If we're using, we are on the precipice of the Final Four being done. And to get into the game, there's certain many ways to get into the game now. So share with us a little bit about your history. Joel, Bobby, like how long you been in the industry? Where'd you come from? Will we see you at NAIFA events? And how did you get connected to NAIFA? Super.
Yes, you will. Well, I've been in the industry now almost 30 years, just about 30 years. I started at a large career company shortly out of college, like a lot of young people did, being recruited and smiling and dialing, and primarily selling long-term care insurance when I started, and cold calling and doing all the things that young life insurance people do. Then I found Midland National a few years into my career, and it's been a wonderful relationship. First as an advisor, and now as a regional sales director. Everything Bobby said about the industry. Your ability to help people, your ability to have a life while doing well for yourself, and being there for your family and other families. All of it is so true. My experience with Midland has been remarkable. I've watched the company and our parent company Salmons grow into a real leader in financial services, and have watched not only personal relationships with home office folks like Bobby really flower over the years and watch them grow, but watch the advisors that we work with now for me, and anyway, in my case for decades, watch their practices blossom in so many areas. And what I'm so excited about going forward is really how a rising tide lifts all boats. As the advisors we work with at NAIFA, as their practices grow in the areas of AUM, in the areas of annuities, in the areas of group benefits, their life insurance business grows as well, because they have more clients and they have more access to assets. They have more access to referral opportunities. So it's just, it's wonderful to see. And I've seen it throughout my career. I've been involved with NAIFA personally, really almost since the beginning, since my early days in the career system, going back now at least 15, 17 years ago. I'd made it to the board of my local NAIFA, where I was active for several years, and then stepped off the board and let others take over. I'm at NAIFA events all the time. I've made some wonderful industry relationships, folks that to this day are working with us at Midland National at NAIFA events. And, when Bobby had told us that Midland National was working with NAIFA like this, I was so excited, because NAIFA is our voice, and more advisors need to know that. I think they do, but you can't repeat the message enough. NAIFA is our voice on the federal level. NAIFA is our voice on the state level, and it's a wonderful resource for advisors to learn, to connect, to grow, to feel like they're part of something larger than just their own business. It's been a wonderful experience for me in my practice, in my years with Midland, and I encourage all advisors, when I work with them and talk with them, to be involved with NAIFA, because there's a lot of benefit to it.
I'll try to keep mine somewhat short. Just like Joel, I came right out of college and started selling life insurance, and it was a part-time job for me, thinking that I was going to grad school, and I'll never forget the comment that I told my GA at the time: "Sure, I'll come sell life insurance until I get a real job." 31 years later, I started with a small company out of Springfield, Missouri, Franklin Life. I moved to Midland in 1996. And so I am in my 30th year with Midland National. They were my primary life company for all the reasons we've talked about here today. I was in the advisor world, and I just got to a point of, I felt like I needed a new challenge. I love Midland and the people there. And I said, you know what, I can recruit people to sell Midland National. It's a great place. So in 2006, our current president, Jerry Blair, was my sales vice president. And he took a chance on me and said, yeah, come over and you can run half of Texas, which was the north half. And so I was peers with Joel for 15 years as a regional sales director, and I recruited to the Midland National story. And it hasn't changed since then. In 2020, we were going through some changes at Midland, and Jerry called me again. He had elevated to the chief distribution officer at that time. And I got a call out of nowhere and says, hey, I want you to come run Midland distribution for me. And so in 2020, October of 2020, I made the transition into the corporate world. And then Jerry got promoted to president soon after. And I filled the CDO role soon after he did. And so it's been a unique experience for me. But I think I bring a different lens to our executive meetings because I've got such a unique lens on the actual process of selling life insurance, recruiting to life insurance, which is our lifeblood at Midland, is recruiting new producers. And then, of course, waking up and helping product and actuary and all the things that we do from an executive level to put out products that solve problems for our clients. As far as NAIFA is concerned, I was a part of NAIFA years ago as a regional, just like Joel. Love the support that we get there. I mean, they're our lifeline to our legislators. As far as what I'm doing now with them, it's been a whirlwind. I have to give kudos to Andrew Wren, our leader of our advanced markets team. Andrew brought this opportunity to us. We signed on as a sponsorship. So when you ask, what are we doing going forward? I am going to be at the DC event. I think it's on the Hill, May 19th and 20th. I've been asked to be on the independent leadership board. So I think my process and my activity with NAIFA is only going to grow. And I'm certainly excited to be able to help our industry and be a voice for Midland National on how we protect our industry.
Thank you, Bobby. Kathleen, any other questions before we go to the lightning round? We take them there.
No, maybe I had a lightning round question. I can ask it now if you want.
Let's do it. Hold on one second.
Okay.
So guys,
Sure.
we're going to take you to the lightning round. The lightning round, if you've ever watched our podcast, is basically, not on the Budweiser hot seat, but we're going to ask you a series of questions. Most of them, don't overthink it, because what people want to know is that you're real people, right? And they want to know, people remember, hey, Chris is the guy that actually likes lasagna. So when he comes here, let's take him to the lasagna place. It's the weirdest thing. I don't know, but it's kind of fun. So just be yourself, relax. We're not going to ask you, what you did in 8th grade when you were, we're not going to ask you any of that. That's all buried now. We're going to talk to you just so people get to know you a little bit. So we'll start off with simple, and we'll go from Joel to Bobby, Bobby to Joel. Okay. And then we'll go that route. Okay. So first question is, Joel, your favorite food?
Pizza.
Pizza. Bobby?
Oh, Mexican food.
Mexican food. See how easy that was? You already knew the answer. Right? Kathleen, go ahead.
Okay, who's your favorite band?
Ooh.
The Police.
I gotta divide it. I'm sorry. I grew up with a 60s dad. Bee Gees #1, Van Halen #2.
Nice. I like the number 2. I'm a kid of the 90s, so I'm with you. I also like the Police, by the way.
All right. Question is, if you could look back to your 20-year-old self, 21-year-old self, and give yourself advice, what advice would you give yourself? Joel?
Take more chances. The old expression, the biggest risks are sometimes the ones not taken. Don't, bet on yourself and take more chances.
Bobby?
Enjoy the journey.
Enjoy the journey. That's good. That's good. Last question. Bobby, I'll ask you this. We'll start with you. Your proudest moment in the insurance industry thus far?
Ooh. Proudest moment in the insurance industry. Man, you said we couldn't overthink that. That's a tough one. That goes back 30 years. Proudest moment. Golly. Proudest moment. I think one of the proudest moments is being elevated in this current role, to be able to work with a team that I get to work with on a day-to-day basis, which is Joel's team. And that may sound like a cliched answer, but if you were around this group and how we interact together, you would see the honesty in that answer.
Awesome. Joel?
I mean, just this past year, this was really wonderful. It just happened. Just this past year, I was selected among all the regionals as the regional of the year for Midland. And I had been close a few times, but you've been to a number of Final Fours, I guess, but finally, won the award. And if you know Bobby and you know Midland's regional system, it's a wonderful system, and to be thought of so highly amongst my peers was really just an amazing achievement. Really a highlight for my career.
In 2024, Chris, it wasn't even close. Joel, you look at what he did last year for many, many people. It was clear. Joel
was the Yukon Huskies, huh?
He was.
Insurance industry, huh? He was dominant.
Dino.
He was dominant, huh? I love it. Well,
It was good.
Thanks to the both of you, number one, for partnering with NAIFA and continuously trusting the industry and pouring back into the industry. You know, Kathleen and I wouldn't be able to do what we do without people like yourself. So thank you so much for the time, energy, and effort you put into the industry. NAIFA Nation is listening. Or is there anything specifically you would like to share with NAIFA Nation, either one of you?
Yeah, I would just say that number one, I'm proud to be back associated with NAIFA. We slide, right? You get things come up and things get pushed in the background, and NAIFA has certainly been pushed to the forefront. And I look forward to contributing in any way that I can on Midland's behalf.
Thank you.
I would say join NAIFA, get involved with NAIFA. I often say to my advisors, is there a lawyer who's not a member of the American Bar Association? Is there a doctor who's not a member of the American Medical Association? Make NAIFA your association, get involved. The stronger we are, the more we're going to get out of it, the more the industry will get out of it. You know, it's a great relationship, and it's one that'll feed. That'll create benefits for you and for our industry for the rest of your life. It's just wonderful.
Thank you so much, Joel. Thank you, Bobby. Kathleen, our wonderful co-host. Is there anything you'd like to say to NAIFA Nation before we close?
You know, I would say reach out to wonderful partners like Midland. I mean, they are truly there to help all of us. If you feel like you might have holes or gaps in your practice, as Bobby said, Bobby, what'd you say? There's 24 regional directors there at Midland.
Yes.
So find your Joel. It may not be Joel, but if you need that assistance, reach out to them. I know the gentleman I work with in my region's been wonderful, but I don't know everything. And I always lean heavily, whether it be on my asset side or my protection side with my regionals to get those answers, because I am not an expert. So please reach out to those individuals for help.
Thank you, Kathleen. It's so wonderful seeing you. I look forward to building this wonderful message through our podcast and this platform. You know, we're fortunate enough to continue to have it. And thanks all of you for tuning in to Advisor Day podcast, where we give you the voice of the advisors and the thought leaders in our industry. And we look forward to seeing you at Congressional Conference. We'll see you on the Hill. We have some wonderful things planned there. And we'll see you next week at the same time, same place. And this is where we come together for the collective group of us all. And let's leave the world a little better than we found it. Thanks all.
Thanks, Joel and Bobby. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you, guys. We'll see you later. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for joining us for NAIFA's Advisor Today podcast series. Make sure to subscribe to get future episodes. And if you're interested in coming on the show, let us know.